Greetings people, it's Paul here at Homestead. I'm going to talk to you today about my garden, how I build my beds, how I mulch my beds, and how I turn my beds. I don't use a tiller, and I never have used a tiller, and I never will. Tillers absolutely destroy the soil, and they promote weed growth. All of my friends that use tillers, they come by, they see my garden, they get all frustrated, and they're like, "You don't have any weeds." I said, "I know, I've told you that time and again." And they continue to use the tiller. They think, okay, this year I'm not going to have weeds. I'm going to till my garden up right, and we're going to not have any weeds. And if you use a tiller, I guarantee you, you will have weeds. It's a fact. You're going to have weeds if you use a tiller. There's no way around it, because you're taking all the weed seed that's down there underneath the soil, you're bringing it to the surface where it can get light and moisture and germinate, and you're going to have weeds. I also keep my beds mulched. I use a broad fork. I use a shovel to remove the sod, and then I use a broad fork, and then I mulch. And if you will do that, you will not have weeds, and your beds will be beautiful, and you will grow beautiful garden crops. When I say your beds will be beautiful, I'm talking, of course, about the soil, the texture, and the microbial growth, the fungal growth, and the earthworm growth that's going to be in your soil. When I refer to beautiful, that's what I'm talking about. The things that make garden soil wonderful and that grow good plants. So I'm going to grab the camera here real quick. I'm just going to walk around a couple of my beds and show you so you can see up close, more what I'm talking about. And I'm going to pull a couple of handfuls of mulch up and show that to you. So you can see the beds there. You're going to see some green every now and again. I do have some onions that have come up. I've got cilantro that's come up. There's some peas here, and some kale and some dill. Several things are coming up already. The onions that are coming up are from last year. I'll be gathering seed from those this year. I do like to have the grass growing between my beds. Over yonder you can see where I have the chat. I started to put the chat in, and I stopped doing it because I really like having the grass grow between my beds. It can be kind of a hassle because you do have to mow it, and as the garden season goes on, some of the plants will kind of get off into the pathways, and you got to come through and move all those out of the way, then mow and put them, and then put your plants, let them get back out into the pathway. I have lined these with brick because I got a lot of brick for free. A guy had torn down a building in one of the small towns not far from here, and he called me. He knows I'm a scavenger, and he called and said, "You want some free brick? Come and get it." So I did. I went and got all the brick, and so you can line the beds with wood, you can line them with brick, you can line them with nothing. It all that kind of depends on the amount of work you want to do and the kind of budget you have. I would line them with something, because what I do when I mow is I put the tires of the mower right on the brick and then just mow right on across. You do need to have a mower with a rear discharge bag or a mulching mower. You can't have a side chute mower, because you can't be throwing all the grass clippings into the bed, because there is going to be some weeds growing in the grass, and then you're going to get weeds in your bed. So it's got to be either a mulching mower or a rear bag catcher, so it doesn't throw any of the grass clippings into your garden beds. So I'm going to go get my broad fork and my shovel and my wheelbarrow and show you how I do some stuff. Okay. Now normally I would line this with string so I can keep my line straight, but I'm not going to go very far. I'm just going to do this just to show you how I do it. So we're going to go down about 2 inches. Get below the grass roots. Ciao, Belle. And then we're going to remove that sod. I'm going to break some of it up on the bottom here. Try and get those earthworms back in there. And then we're just going to throw that in the wheelbarrow. That's going to be discarded somewhere. I will put it in the timber. You're going to have to put it wherever you have at your place. You can throw it in the compost, but it is going to contain quite a bit of weed. I'm going to finish this piece here, then I'm going to grab the broad fork and show you how I do that. Now, the sod is removed. You don't bring the subsoil to the top. You're just rocking it back to loosen the subsoil. I'll hit that a couple of times. These tines are 14 inches long. I weigh $190, between 185 and 190 pounds, so if you weigh more than that, this is going to be easier for you. If you weigh less than that, you're going to have to jump on it a little more. This does a much better job than tilling. It doesn't require any gas, and I don't have to argue with it in the spring trying to get it started. Go back the other way a little bit if you want. When you're preparing a new bed, you got to work at it a little more because the soil's been undisturbed. You'll see when I get into my garden beds, it goes a lot smoother and it's a lot easier. But that's how you create a garden bed that's going to be weed free. That's all I would do, okay, just in a much bigger area, because I'm gonna, be making an entire garden bed. There's a grub. Then after all that bed is done, I come back and I cover it with the mulch. So there you go. Another grub. So cover that. You finish that. You can see how nice a job that does. And then you cover that with mulch, and yeah, you're good to go. That's a permanent garden bed that's not going to give you any problems. You just, every year you're going to come back and do that again. So I'm going to run over to the garden, show you how I pull the mulch back and how I run the broad fork through my beds. Now I've gone ahead and pulled the mulch out of a third of this here bed, and I put it in the wheelbarrow. I want to show you here real quick what this is. A meadow creature broad fork. This is guaranteed for life. This is one sturdy piece of equipment right here. $250 to $300 is what they run. They don't carry them at the box stores. You're going to have to order one online. I've even checked it like Earl May and places like that, garden centers. They don't have them. It's got some heft to it. I'm going to say it probably weighs 50 pounds. Very solid metal. These tines are 14 inches, and you'll get free shipping on it because it does cost $300. So doesn't require any gas, doesn't require any oil, and it doesn't make a lot of noise, and you don't have to argue with it to get it started in the spring. I'm just going to do a little bit here, then pause the camera, and then show you the end result. You want to push it down in, rock it back. Rock it back. You follow, the broad fork follows you. So I'm standing in my bed, but I'm fixing to to loosen that soil back up anyway, so it'll be all right. This is really not a lot of work. The weight of your body's pushing it in, and then you're just rocking it back using leverage. I'm seeing a lot of worms right now, people. A lot of worms that would be dying if I was using a tiller. Man, there's a lot of worms. And just go over here. Get the other side. So I think you're getting the idea, so I'm going to pause the camera. I'm going to finish this bed, then I'm going to show you my mulch up close and talk to you a little bit about what I use for mulch, and then I'm going to remulch my bed. Okay people, that took me just a little less than 5 minutes, and I did a third of the bed, so the whole bed's going to take about 15 minutes. So that you can see what a wonderful job that has done. I can't tell you how many worms I saw, and it's just, the soil is, I mean, this is just wonderful. And I did not bring any wheat seed to the surface. Now this mulch is, this is old moldy hay, specifically alfalfa hay, is what I've been using. I got a Mennonite buddy who, after the hay's been sitting around for 3 or 4 years in the back of his barn where he's not going to feed it to his cows anymore, he gives it to me for a pretty good price. And then I'll take the hay and I'll put it in the chicken yard. Over yonder you see the chickens. I've got hay in there right now, and it'll sit in there for about 4 to 6 months, and they'll turn it for me and they'll be pooping in it. So not only has this mulch good quality alfalfa hay, but it's loaded with chicken manure and all kinds of wonderful byproducts. So I get it for a good price, and the chickens turn it for me. I also use shredded leaves. I put the leaves in those bins over there. I go to a cemetery. There's a couple of them around where the cities will let me go in and rake up the oak leaves. Cemeteries always have oak leaves or oak trees, and they're glad to let me do that. I'll go in there and rake up a couple of truckloads of oak leaves. I put them in those bins, then I run them over with that push mower and get them shredded, and then I put them on the beds that way too. So that broadfork will work in raised beds. These are what we call permanent beds. I got away from using raised beds because here where I live, we have really hot summers, and the raised beds just dry out too fast. I was having to put way too much water on them, and they were drying out too fast. The raised beds and the permanent beds are exactly the same, with the exception that the permanent beds are obviously level with the ground, so they hold moisture significantly better than a raised bed. Even raising it up 4 to 6 inches will cause the soil to dry out a lot faster. So I opted to go with these permanent beds, and but the broadfork will work in a raised bed just as well as it will in a permanent bed. You can get right up in there in the bed, and you just work your way right across the raised bed with the broadfork, just like I did here. You can't really do that with a tiller with a raised bed. I mean, you could pick the tiller up and put it in there, but that's just going to be a mess. So a lot of reasons people not to use a tiller and to use a broadfork instead. And you know, you can remove the sod as I showed you earlier, then run your broadfork through it, and you're done. And that's done for the whole year. You're not going to be doing a bunch of weeding. All you got to do is put your mulch on after you've used your broadfork, and you're good to go. If you don't have chickens to turn the hay for you, just take the hay bales and stick them out. You know, buy them in the fall, stick them outside, and let them sit through the snow and the rain and everything else. And then by the time spring rolls around and it's May and you're planting your beds, that hay is going to be all moldy and nasty from sitting out in the snow and the rain for several months, you know, the whole winter and then most of the spring. So that'll do the same thing. You might want to cut the baling twine just to kind of open the bale up a little bit, because you know, they shed water pretty well when they're real packed. So cut the baling twine, just kind of open it up a little bit, not a whole lot, just to let the rain kind of get down in the middle. And the only thing you're going to be missing is the chicken manure. You're going to have to come back in with the fertilizer. But that's it. I'm going to go ahead and put my mulch back on my bed. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and finish doing this bed. I'm going to go get my shirt off and put on a pair of shorts. It's way too hot to be doing this in a t-shirt and long pants. But I didn't want to subject you people to that kind of a thing, seeing me in a pair of shorts. So we'll get this bed done, and I wish you the best of luck in your growing season in 22. If you liked the video and found it helpful in any way, please subscribe and give me a click on the like button. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time at Green Shower.